When a woman in labor arrives at the hospital with contractions, they are classified under patient under investigation for COVID-19. They're placed alone in the labor room and family members and husbands are asked to leave them. A new mom, Tamara Ncanywa, says that COVID-19 changed the way that she imagined her labor would be and made her cry. Well, she joins us now to tell us more about this. A very good morning to you, Tamara. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking out this time to share your story with us.
Good morning to everyone and all the viewers of Newsroom Africa.
Now, before we get to the actual day that you gave birth, talk to us about the days and the weeks or even months preceding that. Do you feel that you were able to get enough antenatal classes, and were you prepared enough beforehand?
The whole process was a scary one at that because no one was, aware of the changes and effects of the coronavirus to the unborn baby. So obviously the advice I had from the doctors was to stay at home, and I literally hid myself from the world, throughout the pregnancy and with the antenatal classes, and that's something I really wanted to do so that when the labor comes, I'm able to, navigate myself from that point until the birth of the child. So I didn't have antenatal classes, so everything, left me feeling anxious and scared, of the day that will come where I have to give birth to my son. So it was a scary period, but I relied on my husband and my family for support.
And then on the day that you had to give birth to your son, talk us through that experience, that moment when your husband was told to leave and all of a sudden you were alone with just the hospital staff. What kind of emotions were you going through?
I cried. I cried because it was my first child and I wanted my husband and my family to be there. So when I was told that when I come into the hospital, I'm treated as a PUI, which is a patient under investigation, because they have to test you to check whether you've got the virus or not, so they can take the necessary precautions. So when I was told I'm going to be left alone in the room, first and foremost, it's my first child. Secondly, I don't know what to do. I didn't have antenatal classes, the whole breathing technique and how to handle the contractions and all of that. I felt so alone and so scared. So when I was told I'm going to be left alone and then my husband can only come during active labor when about 6 or 7 centimeters dilated, I felt so scared. I cried when I was left alone, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. When the pains were coming through, I just didn't know what to do with my body as well. So it was a new experience, a scary one, and an experience that I will never forget because I relied on that support, and when I didn't have it, it just left me feeling very crushed.
And what was that moment like then when you actually got your test results back because you were considered a patient under investigation?
I got the results the next morning. So the results obviously came after my son was born, and I couldn't believe the results when they came through because I didn't understand how I could have contracted, because every time I would have to go and buy essential things, I have, obviously have to wear a mask. I was taking all the precautionary measures. I was staying away from everyone, and we didn't have visitors as well. So I left today. I was very shocked. So, and in any case, during my stay at the hospital, my food orders were taken from the door. You felt like you were in prison of some sort where people can't get to you and you can't get to them. And the result of that, I felt very isolated and very alone, and because I couldn't even get visitors, I couldn't wait to go home. Actually, the whole experience was it was very traumatic for me.
And then when it comes to breastfeeding, we learned earlier on from one of the gynecologists we spoke to that it's very important for you as a new mom to breastfeed your child within the first hour. Did you find it was very difficult for you to bond then with your child in that period?
Since the results came the following day, on the day that my son was born, I was obviously taught how to make sure that he latches on properly and he breastfeeds. And then the next day, when the results came, I was told to wear a mask while I was breastfeeding. So breastfeeding wasn't an issue, but it's a matter of, getting the help from the nursing staff on how to actually make sure that he latches on properly and breastfeeds. So, I'm still enjoying it. That's one of the things that, makes me, bond strongly with my son. So it wasn't an issue, from the beginning.
You know, you talked about how you cried in those moments just leading up to, but just before you gave birth to your son, but following which you actually laughed, which means that you actually clearly have begun to heal from that trauma that you went through. What advice would you be able to give then to moms who are still expecting to deliver in the coming months in terms of dealing with those emotions and the different way in which you're expected to give birth alone?
I think after you are discharged from hospital, family, is very important. So for me, the fact that I had my mom who came up from the Eastern Cape, my sister-in-law is also here, and also my sister and my husband. So I've got support system. The fact that as well that, first-time moms don't sleep at night as well. So having that support, physical support, is one thing that, got me through this whole thing. As much as, I still have flashbacks of the birth and the hospital experience, but I've put that aside and focusing, on loving and caring for my son, and also, appreciating the support that I have.
And how is your baby boy doing?
Oh my goodness, he's such a sweet baby. I'm enjoying motherhood to the extreme. Whether I sleep or not at night, it really does not matter. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy. He's such an amazing child.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to share your very personal story with us. That was Tamara Ncanywa, who is a new mother who gave birth under the very strict lockdown regulations.